how SEO and paid search can work more effectively together. Hello and welcome to the April 2026 edition of the Majestic SEO panel discussing how SEO and paid search can work more effectively together. I'm your host, Bain. Joining me today are 5 great guests. Let's meet them, starting off with Barbara.
Thank you, David. So my name is Barbara Pezzi. I'm based just outside London, and I've been working in the industry, both organic and paid, for, this is going to give my age away, but almost 20 years. So a long, long time. And easiest way to find me, since my name is quite long, is just to Google my name, and both my LinkedIn and my own website will pop up.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Also with us today is Ryan.
Thank you very much, David. Very pleased to join the panel. Lovely discussion looking ahead. My name is Ryan Glass. I am, despite the accent, also coming from London, from the offices of Performix UK. I've been working in many different forms of digital and performance marketing for 16 years. A lot of time spent in exactly how do we work together in more efficient and more effective ways cross-channel.
Superb. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. And also with us today is Serge.
Hi, everyone. Serge Nguele here, your PPC doctor. I've been in PPC for over 16 years. So Barbara just has you, guessing my age now. I'm London-based, working internationally. I must say at this point that when I started with PPC, when I started in digital, I was on SEO, and the big dream of mine was I've always been to really have the two channels working together. But in practice, from my in-house or agency life, it's a dream never happening, kind of. And fast forward today, I'm with your PPC doctor, which is not an agency, not a consultancy, it's a clinic. So a PPC, a diagnostic clinic where we live by one principle: we diagnose before prescribing. So yes.
Lovely. Thank you, Serge. Well, 3 distinct accents, all from London there so far. Next panelist joining us is Georgia.
Hi, I'm Georgia Boomberg. So I'm a PPC account director at Found, the Every Search agency. I've been in the industry roughly about 6.5 years now, predominantly working in paid search, but most recently, probably over the last 3 years, one of my biggest kind of passion projects, I would say, is really like thinking about how SEO and paid search can work together. So yeah, I'm super excited to be on this panel. It's my first one, so hopefully I don't do too bad.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid. Just jump in there and hopefully start agreeing and disagreeing with other panelists out there. They won't take it personally. Thanks for coming on, Georgia. And also with us today is Tiago.
Hey everyone. So my name is Tiago. I'm originally Portuguese from Lisbon, but live in the Netherlands for more than 14 years now. I work as a paid search specialist, but to be honest, I was an SEA, like an SEO converted person into SEA. So I used to do SEO, and now I'm in paid search SEA. And currently working for a big flower delivery network group called Euroflorist, also known as eFlorist in the UK. And basically very enthusiastic about the hybrid connection between the two fields. I even also started a small community that turned to be quite interesting about search marketing here in the Netherlands, which is now over 800 members, and where we change like insights on both fields and learn from each other. So you can find out more if you want to join. Feel free to reach me out on LinkedIn with my name.
Lovely. Now, with that particular introduction, I think it's probably best that we actually start with you, Tiago, for the first question. And that is, how would you summarize the difference between paid search and SEO?
Even though they might differ, I believe there's huge similarities, and both aim for the same outcome, which is like being the top result on search engines. with the nuance of having a budget or not having a budget. Can I always argue that SEO also needs a budget though? But the major difference is also like the expectation in the timing you get the exposure. So in SEA, you get immediate results by paying for it. So what you can see happens almost in real time. Whereas in SEO is a long-term game where the actions of what you do today will eventually show results in the mid to long term. And I think also another nuance is competition. So in paid search in SEA, there's insane amount of competition most of the times. Whereas in SEO, there's a lot of untapped opportunities that, depending on the angle we choose to rank for, can be real quick winners and low-hanging fruits. So yeah, I think those are the main factors: competition, like the expectation of visibility gains and the time it takes, as well as the real-time results. And so yeah, that's it overall, in my opinion.
That's a great introduction. So thanks, Tiago. Let's go around the rest of the panel on that one just very quickly. Perhaps you can pull out just one point that you would emphasize as being particularly different about paid search, or the other way around. So Barbara, how would you summarize the difference between paid search and SEO?
I think both, both paid search and SEO aim to are focused on the quality in delivering the most relevant content to the users. Essentially, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to land on our page, find the content good, and hopefully do what we would like them to do. The difference I find, exactly what Tiago said, is that with paid search, you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the testing. You can test headlines, you can test landing pages, you can test content way faster than you could possibly do with SEO. And also with SEO, the timelines are much, much slower. On the flip side, though, there is some advantages on the SEO side of things too. So, for example, long tail keywords. Sometimes companies obsess so much on the big query, the big volume terms, and they may not get there, but there may be a lot of really good, valid long tail terms that may not have a huge amount of volume. But when you try to bid on them on paid search, then Google says there isn't enough search volume to trigger an ad, especially if you're trying to do it in exact match. And so SEO might give us certain opportunities that are not available in paid search. So a little bit of both.
Ryan, what are your initial thoughts?
I agree with both Tiago and Barbara. I think the soundbite around it would be, do you want to be seen or do you want to be found? Right? Paid search is when it's important that my brand or my page or my offer is seen today. I have a moment in the consumer journey. Maybe it's a limited time offer. Maybe I understand my activation window and there's an action that I want this audience to take today, and I'm willing to put a budget behind it because of the outcomes I'm looking to generate. Versus when you want to be found on SEO, this is, as Barbara was saying, the longer term. Here's the things that we always want to be known for, and we expect that there's going to be a sustained volume of people for whom this is relevant. Exactly as Barbara said, quality is critical for both, but I think it is, do you have that temporal nature in the message you're trying to get across today?
Superb. And Serge, what are your thoughts?
On this one, at this point, I think, we would only be agreeing. In a nutshell, I would say it's two sides of the coin serving the same mission, essentially, and the mission being how do the end user get whatever they are searching in the most efficient way. That on search, it would be it could be quickly triggered because there is a budget element where you could activate bid, which was true at the beginning. Anyway, now with the smart bidding, it's not really that true anymore, but the essence of it is the same, and organically it's exactly the same. What do you do so that when people are searching, you get found?
Okay, and Georgia, let's get your quick thoughts.
Very tricky to go last, because I feel like everyone said really great stuff. But I guess, yeah, just building upon that, it's really about looking at how paid search tends to be more short term, and SEO definitely is more long term. But it's also thinking about, particularly where I come from an agency background, is putting ourselves in our client shoes and how they tend to think about paid search and SEO. With paid search, you almost get like the immediate reward of actually being able to see that conversion data being attributed back to, the work that you're doing. Whereas for SEO, it is much longer term, and trying to distill the value to a client about SEO can be a lot more challenging, which is why, it can be thought that SEO has been neglected up until now, where we have seen this big rise in AI overview, and like how people are searching is changing, and how important SEO is in this day and age. So yeah, I think it's really about finding that nice middle ground between both the short term and the long term, and where those two channels actually can work more effectively together.
Brilliant. Okay. I promise I'll come to you second for the next one, Georgia. So you've got a little bit of time to think about it, but you also don't get to hear everyone's answer before actually having to deliver yours. We'll go with Serge for the first one, this one, because Serge, we talked about this beforehand, and that's the topic: what is quality score and how does it impact SEO as well as paid search? And my background's probably more SEO than paid search. I've done a little bit of paid search in the past, and I'm aware that quality scores is something that obviously Google applies to, I think it's individual ads, isn't it? When they look at how well and relevant the whole ad, the title, the description, is to the landing page, and the keyword phrase that you're targeting as well. And there's always been a bit of a discussion in terms of whether or not SEOs can utilize the data and perhaps utilize the same landing page as page search. So how would you summarize the way that quality score operates now, and how can an SEO utilize the data found within that?
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. I would try to summarize, but this is really a topic of mine. So essentially, traveling back in the history, how SEO was working at the very beginning with all the keyword stuffing. So the logic of essentially the picture I would use it a shop owner being asked who's the best shop in the street. So of course he would say it's me. That just makes sense, and that's the keyword stuffing technique. Back in the day, they were just saying this is where I want to appear, even though you were not legitimate on it. And fast forward on PPC, it was how I call it when I did my first talk at Brighton SEO on quality score. It was is quality score dead? I would like to think the introduction of quality score was really a revolution. I still think so in the search landscape, because it was introducing a quality element where, okay, it's not anymore I have the budget and I can be top of page. It would be rather, am I answering with the three criteria: relevance, landing page, and the expected click-through rate. So that's mean in the first place, Google, because they are the one who introduced this, were anticipating if you're bringing your ad, how likely is that ad to serve someone searching. So it's that's for the history, and it's still the same. That's why when AI came into play, I was just saying on that talk, I was saying quality score, of course, was applicable only on search with the three criteria. However, and also because the main element on it was the bid, really. So it was finally a reward system. So it was a barometer giving you an indication across three criteria. So it's a score from 1 to 10 across all the different relevance, landing page, and expected click-through rate. So it was giving an element of control. So you having a picture, how likely which of the criteria you could activate to meet the end result. And bid were important there when we had really an impact on it. So back in the day, it could be instant. So you could just increase your bid and see the result, and then automation came into it. So we had less control over it. And fast forward, how I connect personally the two, it's the same logic. It's essentially what now I call, so what quality score was in the day, now with less impact over the budget due to automation, it's what I would call quality satisfaction in the age of AI. So when I was concluding my talk on quality score, I said quality score is applicable on PPC paid search. However, I was anticipating that the logic could be applicable across all the channels. So the rationale Google was using for quality score back in the day is the same used today to surface on AI overview.
Okay.
Just
Georgia.
just to add on the back of that, I actually ran a really interesting test regarding quality score and landing page relevance a couple of years ago now, where essentially we had a client who didn't necessarily believe in the value of SEO, and didn't really understand why like having a content strategy was important, and the website that they did have desperately needed optimization to improve to essentially just improve how it was ranking organically. One test that we ran was looking at comparing a landing page test, comparing the unoptimized landing page and then the optimized pages, which essentially related back to the keywords we were targeting on paid search. So with those keywords where we had those we had the SEO optimized pages, they tended to have a stronger quality score because of the fact they had the keywords that were relevant to what we were bidding on. And when we ran that test, what we saw is the fact that the SEO optimized pages drove a stronger conversion rate and also an uplift in conversions. And it essentially enabled us to prove that you do need these SEO optimizations to take place in order to improve the quality of your paid search performance. So there's definitely, when it comes to like quality score and SEO and paid search, there's definitely that crossover that does happen. And as someone who works in PPC, part of my, I guess, scope and my work is making sure that I can help prove the value. Like we can essentially help sell each other. So yeah, that's kind of like my experience when it pertains to that quality score between those two channels.
I think
Ryan.
Sorry, I was just going to build on what Georgia was saying, and I think exactly one of the opportunities that we have within working together between SEO and paid search is to still look at quality score, even though there's more advanced metrics related to outcomes within paid search that we can definitely look to for specific campaigns. Quality score can still be a great metric for unifying and uniting the work and truly, as Serge said, leaning on the quality aspect of it. How are the different channels able to do their jobs exceptionally well, but make sure everybody's marching in the same direction? How do we rein in where we have potential pivots in strategies or shifting budgets between campaigns and content, and have an assessment that says, we know that we want to be known for this type of thing. We have a strategy around where we want to appear. The quality score is talking about a grade on how well are we appearing for those things where we want to show up. And when we do this work, we're then rewarded with greater efficiency on both teams. And absolutely love what George was just sharing about the outcomes where they were even impactful for the business. So not just how are we expanding reach against the existing budget, but how are we then growing that because we're driving success for the business as well.
Barbara, would you like to add some thoughts on quality score and what SEOs can learn from paid search because of it?
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of, probably because Serge, we're old school. We've been there a long time, so I'm also a big fan of quality score. It's probably one of my obsessions, and it saddens me a little bit these days to see that so many PPC campaigns. I tend to audit more these days than to manage, but see so many PPC campaigns just abandon and with the algorithm doing all of the bidding and all of the work. And to be fair, the algorithm doesn't necessarily always think about quality score. The algorithm thinks about, all right, let's get some money for one side or the other, without making too many comments about it. I think, though, David, there is definitely overlap in the sense that we want quality, or a quality user experience, both from the SEO perspective and the PPC perspective. But I do also agree that sometimes it may be easier to have separate PPC landing pages, simply because, let's say, from an SEO perspective, or even from a branding perspective, there may be certain terms that the branding team will not let you have on the page, or there are only so many terms that you can have on a specific landing page from an SEO perspective. And then building, if we are really focusing on the quality score, then we do want those terms to be present in the landing page. And then as such, it does make sense to create, in some circumstances, dedicated landing pages that also may have a completely different design than what's needed on an organic perspective, from an organic perspective, or from a branding perspective. Where the two can work together is getting, and I think this goes beyond the quality score, is just getting insight from the paid side of things of what terms Google consider to be, what search query consider to be good quality score, good quality experience, and then those learning can potentially be incorporated in the SEO strategy. But I don't think that the landing pages necessarily always need to be the same for organic and paid.
Tiago, I'd love to take that last point that Barbara made, and the point that she made about a minute ago about landing pages not necessarily always needing to be the same for paid search as SEO. I think that's a really significant point, and obviously from an organic search perspective, you're just thinking, well, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to no index or do something to these paid search pages? But then does that do something to the quality score to make paid search less effective? So what's your perspective on landing pages and whether or not they need to be the same?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point. I honestly worked for companies in the past that adopted that strategy, where they were constantly making iterations to different landing pages to test which one would perform the best through paid advertising, whether if it's on Meta or even Google advertising. And the fact that indeed it was needed to have a special dedicated landing page was for multiple reasons. It was for CRO reasons, so conversion rate optimization. Simply the landing page needed to scream like FOMO, fear of missing out, like social proof, and all of those things are great for advertising, not necessarily perhaps good for SEO. Some of the times these things take a weight on things like page load times and other things. So yeah, it could be that the more developed landing pages might also slower to be, and therefore it doesn't go with the guidelines of load times that SEO needs to have to make the page rank properly. So yeah, definitely, I think it's a good test. And with the different landing pages, you can also do something called smoke tests, which is understanding whether a proposition in a specific landing page would resonate with the target audience quickly or not. So by creating a proposition that you don't know yet if it's going to work out and testing it with ads is a quick way to find out if something works or not, without touching the actual pages that need to rank for specific keywords for SEO purposes. So it could be that you said, David, we might need to no index such pages because we don't want the duplicate content running around or any other issues. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, I would say.
Does that have a negative impact in any way on quality score or any other aspect of how paid search performance is determined by Google if a page was no indexed, if a landing page was no indexed?
I honestly don't recall an issue in search, but I do recall issues if you happen to no indexed shopping pages. So if we go to a feed and specifically no index something, that is definitely guaranteed to not show in Google Shopping. So yeah, on Google Shopping, there's a huge sensitive correlation between structured data, which is the SEO term that everybody knows, and the actual Google Shopping feed. So both have to kind of work in a synergy to be able to work. But on Google Search, to be honest, I remember running tests on pages no indexed without any issues or being flagged in Google Ads whatsoever. So
And in summary, would you say there are any key elements that need to be removed from a landing page in order for the landing page to perform more effectively for paid search? I'm thinking of perhaps upper navigation or other elements that are perhaps confusing or unnecessary for the keyword terms that you're targeting.
I think in paid search, a landing page needs to cater to the right intent first and foremost. So the keywords that we're bidding on need to be present, ideally above the fold even. But to be honest, in paid advertising, we have more liberty to experiment with different elements, such as embedded video, product carousels, or eventually embedded reviews from Trustpilot or any other review website, because that doesn't take a tone on necessarily load times. Even though I have to say there's a big metric called mobile page score that is available under the Google Ads UI that does play a role in quality score in some ways, but it's not as critical as if we were talking about SEO ranking, I would say. No.
Let's talk a little bit about AI and how AI is impacting both channels and perhaps the way that paid search and potentially that you would recommend that SEO is done because of the impact that AI is having. Ryan, shall we start off with you on that one?
Thank you very much. It's a really exciting and engaging field, and I'm sure many of us on the panel and many people viewing right now have been having more conversations around AI than you can handle a lot of days. But I love that we're at a stage where we have a lot of really tangible opportunities, both in the US and in the UK and other European markets, as things continue to roll out globally within the front of paid search and AI. While my understanding is there are a number of beta tests going on within Google, within ChatGPT and other AI interfaces, primarily in the US, and then continuing to go forward around running paid search in the response. I think, one of the things that many of us are curious about is what's the interaction there for the user who enjoys AI, who's going for a chat-like experience, and at what point does the user want to click anyways, right? Within SEO, we're already dealing with this in terms of the diminishment of click-through rate and the decoupling of clicks and impressions as AI works its wonders in there. And I'm of the opinion that a lot of times this is simplifying what Google used to call the messy middle, that users are still coming in the same moments where they're treating search as a behavior more than as a channel. There's these life moments that are driving people to interact with search, but the LLMs and the AI are pushing brand recommendations a little bit earlier in the consumer journey. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how do we realize the opportunity for ads that are not intrusive, but are helpful to that, because the AI is already training the user that it's recommending brands that it thinks are going to provide solutions to the outcomes. We all see this right now in the citations and in AI overviews in the links that show up already. So I think there's a lot that both paid and organic teams need to be learning from each other in terms of visibility and understanding what are the elements that a brand can own, what are the elements where brands can influence things, And yes, when those ad opportunities do come up, how do we tap into that in a way that continues to be constructive for the user journey? And I think that's still a design challenge to be solved to a greater or lesser extent.
Barbara, would you like to pick up on that? I was interesting. I thought Ryan's thoughts on brand and brand recognition from AI, and I was wondering whether or not it was even more important now to be on top of the game in terms of appearing for as many brand searches as possible in paid search. Is that fair?
I think it's, I mean, first of all, I think it's, I don't like to give absolutes when it comes to AI because there's so many different theories, and even just the whole SEO versus geo debate, it's a whole thing, is a whole minefield in itself, let alone once we start adding in the paid search component. And there are all different theories on, do we need markdown versus not markdown? Do we want a chunk or not chunk? Or, there's various theories on what's going on and what isn't. What I do, from my experience, believe is that from an AI perspective, or presence or topical presence, the brands do really need to focus a lot on the brand recognition, but also go beyond search. So it's no longer just about having the right keywords or paying the right money to be seen in the ads. It's about how is the brand talked about in social media, in different sites. It's the whole ecosystem of a brand that it becomes way more important when it comes to AI inclusions. But then at the same time, I think this is so fast changing, and every week there is a new article with a new study made on this is how you do it, and this is how you get there. And I don't think that right now we have a definite answer. What I recommend to my client is still pretty much the same SEO techniques that I've always done. It's just focus on the quality, on building a good network of good quality inbound links, on digital PR, on social media presence. And from a pay perspective, I haven't yet had the chance to play with paid ads in AI yet. So I know they've been rolled out in the US, but I haven't got any experience yet on it, so I can't comment if on whether they are proving to be quite valuable or not.
Georgia, I can see you doing a lot of thinking there.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the thoughts on ads in AI, obviously we know that the world of search is like very quickly changing and shifting. I think, paid search very historically and possibly wrongly used to be thought of as a very bottom of funnel, low hanging fruit channel. And now what we're seeing with the way that kind of user search behavior is changing off the back of, how AI is evolving and how people are now searching in sentences rather than just, short keywords, which traditionally we would have targeted on paid search. We're also seeing, from just like how the Google Ads platform, as an example, is progressing. It's now also introducing these new AI automated tools like Performance Max, like AI Max, like Broad Match, which are all tools which are essentially, I say tools, campaign types, which are set up to help, that basically are positioned to be appearing and serving in AI, in ads in AI overview. We know with the US, when it was first rolled out there, that it was a couple of months later where all of a sudden we had AI mode suddenly rolled out within the EU. So yes, the world is very fastly changing with how AI is developing. I think just to relay it back to thinking about how does this impact how both SEO and paid work together. Naturally, these new kind of AI evolving campaign types are very reliant on what we have on websites and are using that information to help inform targeting. And yeah, so essentially it is becoming increasingly important as the world of AI is developing, that these two channels are working together. And this could be, for example, we know for AI Max that you can negative out specific URLs to be targeting. Perhaps we know some URLs on the website which are already being organically surfaced in AI overview quite well and don't need that additional support. Okay, well, how about we look at URLs on the website which aren't being cited in AI overview, and perhaps we can use paid to target those websites via AI Max. So there's ways of thinking about it where it's essentially just thinking about incrementally where are you going to get those user eyes from. But yeah, I feel I can go off on a tangent talking about this sort of stuff.
Well, maybe you should hand the baton to Serge. Serge, how would you take this message that George has delivered and run forward with it? What are your thoughts on how else AI is impacting the way that paid search and SEO are working more effectively together?
On that one, so I would have the same line. I would say more than ever, really with AI is forcing PPC paid search team and SEO team to really work together and have a holistic view, and even putting a commercial price tag on it, because the logic is the same. What we'll notice is that the way brand being cited in AI overview are not necessarily the one with the biggest budget taking the paid search side, and they are not even necessarily the one with a more backlink for the organic part. The one being are the one with really the strongest entity establishment. So that means it's combining really all the channel. And what that means, it's if PPC work in silo SEO, they are missing the point, which means for in-house team, if they are working with different agency, it will be their duty to make sure they are controlling what is being said. And this is giving me the opportunity to just introduce a framework I've been having there, the quality of satisfaction, which, that framework is having the first layer would be what I call the structural clarity. So basically, it will be someone searching, can a reader find their answer in 30 seconds? And then it will be topical authority. That means they need to be a consistent and original expert content online there. Then factual consistency. Is the brand message verifiable online? And this is really going cross-channel, so it won't be SEO or PPC or content in silo or PR. So it's all of them. And then citation worthiness is the other entity referring enough, and then it will be the experience signal. Is there any documented enough real world outcome? Not necessarily claim, because all I can pretend to be the best PPC guy in the world, but that's just me saying. So when all of that we combine all of that, it's giving the quality satisfaction.
Brilliant, Serge. Thank you. Tiago, you're last up on this particular question. So what are your thoughts on the way that AI is impacting the way that paid search and SEO can work effectively together?
I think it's impacting in several fields that need to work simultaneously and synchronized, to be honest. I have some practical use cases where things that used to work really well in the past no longer do because of AI. And I was thinking of a particular case that was really outstanding. It's a tactic that used to work really well for a former company of mine, in which I would pay for a specific consideration keywords in paid search, when users are not yet sure which brand they're gonna opt for. And it turns out, like back in the day before AI was rolled out, we were able to have ads as being the number one choice for those consideration keywords. And that was working like a charm. And to be honest, as of November 2022, or around that time of ChatGPT, or a little bit obviously afterwards, we got now more social proof related content being exposed in the AI overview. So I was just double checking what's going on at the moment. And the number one favorite result is actually Reddit, which is surprisingly, taking the spotlight on behalf of what it used to be the Google Ads landscape in the past. So anyway, my point is like just goes to show how things are constantly evolving, and we cannot sit still and taking things for granted. And because it could be we're running a campaign expecting it to work, but it doesn't, because not necessarily because the campaign is bad, it's because the landscape is moving, and Google as a search engine prefers to opt for a different answer for different queries. That goes to show in this field, but also in other things like Google Shopping. Like I said before, back in the day, it was as simple as bidding on a specific keyword that triggers a visual shopping listing. But now you need good reviews. You need well-established feed complete with all attributes. You need structured data in place, schema markup, because all of those factors actually add up both to the paid shopping listings as well as organic shopping listings. So that's another thing I've noticed recently in my current company. Implementing simple like product schema markup actually drove organic shopping traffic by a substantial margin year on year. So yeah, it's one of those things that keeps on evolving, and it's good to keep an eye on the changes. So, yeah.
Okay, and talking about the changes, I'd like to change the format slightly by just doing a very quick fire round. One particular question, and that is, if an organic search result is number one for a target keyword term, should you be also trying to bid for that term on paid search? Now, try not to make your answer "it depends." Let's start with Serge, because you were smiling with that there.
I was smiling because I just said it depends.
Right.
And it actually does, because I've been for more than 16 years, but I won't have a definite answer. It will. So really, what's the outcome? What are we trying to do? If it's because strategically a brand decided we want to win real estate, that means they would like to be number one on organic and also dominate, the SERP. If it's okay, we are having a budget consideration, that means okay, they would necessarily be finding us on top position, so we want to save and not bid on it. Different outcome and different strategy. So clearly, I can't have a one size fit all on that one.
Okay, Barbara, can you do any better?
I don't know. We'll see. My view on this is you gotta test it, and not just test it as on and off, but really think about it granularly. So, for example, I worked, my previous actually, when I was still in house, we had really good brand recognition in a couple of countries. And we decided to test switching off the branding, brand bidding on one or two countries or different time of the day, of the week. And we found that, for example, in one specific instance for one brand, we were okay switching off the brand bidding for that specific country, because everyone knew it. We were very strong in it. We didn't have a lot of competitors bidding on it, so we were good. When we tried to do the same thing in a different country, in a different market, we weren't successful, so we reinstated it. Now, with regards to testing, and because of the state of attribution as it is right now, what I wouldn't recommend is to say, okay, see if your organic bookings or your organic conversion goes up or down, or your PPC one goes up or down, but just look at your overall results. Pick a week or couple of weeks, depending on the volume, when you have a normal sort of business time. It's not a holiday, it's not high season. And then create an hypothesis. thinking maybe, what if I just switch it off on weekends? If your weekends are quiet times, what if I switch it off in this geo only, for example, or in this campaign only, and then see what happens? So that's what I would recommend to clients.
Ryan, when's a good time to turn off a paid search campaign if it's performing well organically as well?
I think if you're performing well organically, you're in position one. None of us have ever been in a world where we were gathering 100% of the possible clicks. So I think if you've done the things that we talked about earlier in terms of quality score and aligning what you're doing, you're not losing as much by continuing to run your paid search ad in that place, because you should have already optimized for your bid to be as low as it can be. And if there's anything driving up your bid, that means there's competitors. And so you need to be running the ad anyways, right? So I do think that your organic can be capturing the lion's share of the clicks if you're very successful. But the only time I would consider turning it off is if it's not strategically aligned with the business goals, or I can reallocate that budget into a place to do new expansion and demonstrate that I need to then restart the entire process of optimizing both paid and organic in a new territory. But in your tried and true areas, I think you're not losing a lot by, as Serge said, really trying to capture as much real estate as you can when you've proven that it's ROI positive.
Georgia, if you don't mind, I'll try and ask the question in a slightly different way. And that is, if someone has searched for a brand term and it's highly, highly likely that they're after that particular brand, and you turn off the paid search ad for that particular brand term, and you're relying on the individual to navigate down to the organic listing for the brand, but a competitor has bidded on your brand that is obviously not the brand in question, but a result that appears above the organic search result. How likely is it that that user clicks on the competitor as opposed to the organic search result?
I think it's it's hard to say, because obviously I'm not in that user's mindset, but I think it would be quite likely, because I think with the way everything has kind of evolved with how we consume media, we have all gotten so lazy. I think you think about, how TikTok has suddenly emerged as like one of the number one social platforms because people are able to consume content so quickly. So I think when it comes to the mind of a user, yes, we might be, okay, I want to buy from this brand, but also this one's just appeared and they're closer to where that will take me less time to do it. So I'm going to click on this. So, and maybe that's just me generalizing, because you can never truly say whether someone is going to outwardly go out of their way to scroll to the bottom of the page. But what I would say is, I think when it comes to the whole rule around brand bidding, it is definitely in what was being said earlier regarding what the competitors are doing in the auction versus what your organic ranking is. I think in a world in which you have no competition and you're organically ranking number one, absolutely you switch off that brand term, and then you actually go outwards and say, okay, well, we know that we rank really well organically here, and we know that the competition for this term is really low, but what terms do we have where we have really high competition and organically we don't rank well? Can paid search then go after those keywords? And in the background, because SEO is a longer term goal, we're going to work on building up to improve ranking for that keyword. Then we can now look to, okay, we rank well here, now we'll go after this keyword where we don't rank well. So I think it's a very cyclical thing. And also the auction changes all the time. One day a competitor could be bidding, one day they might not be bidding. So yeah, it really does kind of boil down to us actually being able to measure what those competitors are doing and then being reactive with our strategy. And yeah, just actually making sure you're communicating with the SEO team and paid search team, vice versa, to make sure you can continue to, it's almost like an engine, like you're continuing to move with that kind of cyclical strategy.
Let's give the final thoughts on this one to Tiago.
So on this one quickly, on Barbara's point, I agree with everything, and then I would have a user angle, and that's where I'm not on it depends. So I would always, whenever possible, recommend to always bid on your brand for that particular reason. And something I've had, some people, believe it or no, they will come having a brand in mind, and they will click on the first link, go with whatever they were to do. And I'm taking this on the charity sector, which is one I work quite a lot. And I would have the client, patient, that's how I call them. Anyway, this is a clinic. So patient would be coming to say, we are having complaint. Someone who thought he made a donation for a certain charity, but because he just blindly clicked and followed the process and to refund. And why this is happening? Because he just went on with the first brand coming on top. Yes.
And what are your thoughts, Tiago?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are in line with what everybody else said here. I think what's key, it's also like to not forget about competition. So when we're trying to understand whether if it's beneficial to stop branded bidding, we need to pay attention to auction insights in Google Ads. And so I also find myself in an industry at the moment of our business that actually is very prone to last minute buying decision switches. So like George has said, like, to be honest, I see it in real practical cases that people do search for our competitors, but if I bid on their terms, they opt for us instead. It's literally cause and effect for us. So if one of our competitors is not sharp enough to keep up their exposure, we eat their lunch in the end. But it's also depends. Like I've had clients in the past when I was working for agencies, that because the buying cycle and the buying decision was longer and the pricing of the product obviously was more expensive, like we're talking cars or vacations. Obviously, in that case, it's not that people search for a brand and then last minute switch to another one easily and buy from someone else instead. So I've been noticing the more quicker the product is in terms of like whether if it's disposable product or like cheaper or affordable, people might move their opinions and swap decisions for whoever has the best offer. So yeah, actually also learned something interesting. You can, for the ones listening, can find out in my community. Somebody shared the script that pays attention to Google Search Console queries, and also whether they are already being bidded on Google Ads, but also takes into account auction insights data. And with all three metrics connected, we can actually know whether if it's beneficial to pause a keyword that is, number one, already be ranked well organically and not bidden by any other competitor. So that script actually pauses or re-enables the keyword depending on those factors. So good to take into account in case you want to save budget. And then lastly, just one last thing that I crossed my head when we talk about this topic is attribution. So right now there's multiple tools out there that do blended attribution, like Northbeam, like other players like Triple Whale. And these tools basically understand the whole omni-channel marketing efforts, and it's possible to understand the contribution of branded campaigns in the overall bigger picture. And most likely the branded campaigns don't contribute to as much as prospecting as any other campaign. So, which is obvious because whoever searches for that already was probably about to buy anyway. So good to not forget, in case you're working with big clients with big budgets, I would definitely invest time and energy to understand attribution and across multiple channels as well.
And the phrase of the day was just mentioned by Tiago, eat their lunch. Wonderful panel. Thanks so much for joining today. Let's just zoom around them to remind the listener where you can find out more about them. Barbara, where can people find out more about you?
So thank you, David, first of all, for having me here. And it's been great discussion. They can find me on LinkedIn or on my website, which is barbarapezzi.com.
Superb. And Ryan, where can people find out more about you?
Likewise, thank you, David, for having me. Thank you to my fellow panelists. I learned a lot today. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn, Ryan Glass, NYC, although I promise I'm in London. I just haven't updated the URL.
Superb. Thanks, Ryan. And Serge, where can people find you?
Muted. Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, really great intellectual collaboration. So some food for thought. Yeah, I can be found online on LinkedIn, Serge Nguele, or on the yourppcdoctor.com.
Lovely. Thank you, Serge. Georgia, where can people find you?
Yeah, I can be found on LinkedIn, Georgia Bloomberg. And then, yeah, as a reminder, I'm from Found, the Every Search agency.
Lovely. Thanks so much. And Tiago?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. My name is Tiago Goncalves. And yeah, currently working for a company called Euroflorist, but also managing communities. So feel free to join. That's it.
I've been your host, David Bain, and you've been listening to the Majestic SEO panel. If you want to join us live next time, sign up at majestic.com/webinars. And of course, check out SEOin2026.com too. Bye-bye for now.